Welcome and thank you for attending this program brought to you by the Goffstown Public Library, Hooksett Public Library, Manchester City Library, and the Nesmith Library. Just so you're aware, all participants are automatically muted, and we ask that you keep yourself on mute and your camera turned off throughout the presentation. If you have questions, please send them through the chat feature and select everyone when sending messages. This session is being recorded for those who could not make it tonight. And we have a couple upcoming programs. The Manchester City Library is holding a talk and book signing with local author Ken Sheldon for his new book, Deep Water, both in person and on Zoom. That is on September 6th. And October 18th, Manchester is holding a talk with Brandon Gauther called War is a Stern Teacher, Understanding the Russian Invasion of Ukraine. And on October 25th, Hooksett will also be hosting Ken Sheldon in person. Tonight's presenters are Colleen Stewart, the Communications Coordinator for the New Hampshire Food Alliance, and Josh Marshall, Director of Agriculture Development for the New Hampshire Department of Agriculture, Markets, and Food. All right, so with that, I will turn it over to you guys.
All right, thank you, Tess. So good to be here with all of you talking about local food, which I'll speak for Josh is our favorite thing. I'm going to share a little presentation with you all just to kind of give everybody a visual to follow along with. So bear with me while I get all that going. Make sure I share my sound too, because I'm going to share a video as well. Okay, here we go. Okay, eating local in New Hampshire. So kind of the whole focus of this kind of talk and presentation and discussion is kind of how to get started eating locally and making an impact with the way you make food choices. So as Tess pointed out, myself, I'm from the New Hampshire Food Alliance, which is part of the Sustainability Institute at UNH. And I will let Josh introduce himself in a little bit. But the New Hampshire Food Alliance is a statewide network that coordinates many things, but one of which is New Hampshire Eats Local Month. We are housed at the University of New Hampshire at the Sustainability Institute, and our goal is to kind of engage people, businesses, organizations who are dedicated to building a growing, a thriving, fair, and sustainable local food system here in New Hampshire. So we do a various amount of meetings and organizations and presentations like this, educational presentations, to kind of move that goal forward. And we do a lot of our work through these 6 focus areas. You can see all of them there. I don't want to read them all for you because they're long, but the main one we'll be kind of thinking about tonight is this growing the movement of local eaters. It's engaging everyone in eating locally, and in whatever way that means, whether it's growing your own food or going hunting and fishing or going to your farmer's market, the whole spectrum of what it means to eat locally here in the state. So that's kind of what we're going to focus in on tonight, and I will let Josh introduce himself and the Department of Ag.
Yeah, thanks, Colleen. I'm Josh Marshall, the Director of Agricultural Development for the Department of Agriculture. And just a caveat, I'm very new. I just started in July, so bear with me. But the New Hampshire Department of Agriculture, our mission is to support and promote agriculture and serve consumers and business for the benefit of public health, environment, and the economy. So while the name is Department of Agriculture, we don't just serve farmers. The farmers and consumers support each other. Agriculture provides a public benefit beyond the obvious of a healthy food supply. There's cultural benefits, environmental benefits, and economic and tourism benefits as well. So our charge is to make sure that the farmers and consumers are both benefited by what we do. And Colleen, if you want to advance the slide, I'll talk a little bit about the different divisions. So there's 6 divisions within the department, and each of them have a different focus. So agricultural development our focus is sort of statistics and information about New Hampshire agriculture, assisting in marketing and promotion of those products. And we also manage the New Hampshire building at the Big E in Springfield, West Springfield, Massachusetts, which is coming up in September. Animal industry, they're responsible for keeping domestic animals and poultry populations safe through monitoring, testing, licensing, vaccination, that sort of thing. Pesticide control ensures safe and proper use of chemicals on the farm, and they support integrated pest management integration onto farms, which is to reduce the amount of inputs and to do things as safely as possible. Plant industry, inspection of commercially grown nursery and greenhouse stock, monitoring for invasive species of plants and pests, some that you might be familiar with, spotted lanternfly. There's a big push to be monitoring for those. And there's a lot of invasive plants that are hard to deal with. So they're really key on that. Regulatory services ensures compliance with all the laws and rules. They do organic inspections and certifications for farms in New Hampshire, and a number of other inspections for maple producers, things like that. And then weights and measures, they regulate commodities sold by weight or measure in state commerce. And it's not just the farm scales, it's grocery store scales, it's your gas pumps, it's all sorts of things. So there's a lot of things that the Department of Agriculture reaches out to that you might not think from just the name. But the next slide, this is actually interesting. This was something that I put together at my previous job with the New Hampshire Farm Bureau Federation, which is it's really kind of cool that it lined up with you folks in Hillsborough County for the most part. This is a spotlight of 3 different farms in Hillsborough County: Brookdale Fruit Farm, Connolly Brothers Dairy Farm, and Trombley Gardens in Milford, to show a little bit about how they connect to the community, the different things that they're doing on their farms, and how you can participate in their products. So if you want to let that roll, we can.
Yes, I'm going to stop sharing. I had it preloaded, so I'm hoping it goes well. 1 second. And Josh is going to be humble, but Josh was the mastermind behind this beautiful, beautiful video we're about to watch. So kudos to Josh on his beautiful work. Okay. Share the sound. Here we go. And if at any point you can't hear or see, please let me know.
Hi, I'm Chris Connolly from Connolly Brothers Dairy Farm in Temple, New Hampshire. Here at Connolly Brothers Dairy Farm, we're a highly diversified, small family farm. Our main business is that we milk cows, but we have many other aspects that keep us busy throughout the year. We have, besides the traditional dairy farm, we have recently gotten into the direct sales. We have a farm store which we started around the year 2000. And just recently this year we've added on and built a whole new facility for our retail store, so we can really push that on its own, and it also give us more end in the production room for making the ice cream, which has really been booming in the past probably 10 years.
We do about 52, 54 flavors throughout the whole season. So some of them are just seasonal flavors, some of them we just do on and off that may not be big sellers this year, but next year they're going to be huge. All of our ingredients, we try to get as much local as possible. We use our own maple syrup for all our maple product ice cream, our maple walnut, maple cream, and our sweet piggy.
been doing maple syrup since the 70s, but it wasn't anything, you know, we only tapped like half our trees up back. So we maybe did 300 taps, you know, and it was just more of a fun thing, and we'd sell a little bit here. And now it has the tourist component, you know, and marketing component for the bigger operation. So those different businesses, some of them take place year round, others are seasonal, and they each have an important part in the business that helps with cash flow at different times of the year. Now that we sell direct to the consumer, we get to talk to the consumer. They come and visit us in the barn. We explain what we're doing. It's neat to see the families come up, you know, and they think this is the coolest thing, and or makes it, you know, the pride that we have, it just makes us feel better. It makes us feel more responsible for what we're doing.
Hello, welcome. I'm Sean Trombley from Trombley Gardens here in Milford. We're at Sunny Prairie Farm, which is a very diverse New England farm. We have a retail farm stand. We retail a lot of our own produce, our own meat. We raise 130 head of beef cattle. Usually raise about 30 hogs a year. It's about 150 acres total of land here at the farm, of which we have 15 acres of mixed vegetables, 10 acres of sweet corn, and the balance is in cow corn and hay for hay production that we retail as well. So being such a diverse farm, we don't really have an off season. I mean, I guess dairy farmers don't either. But springtime starts February in the greenhouses, getting ready for bedding plant production. Then we roll into, I mean, we have the beef cattle here on the farm, which don't require a whole lot of care other than feeding and cleaning. We move into bedding crops, planting crops in the field in the spring, corn, early greenhouses. We do have a couple of greenhouses for early season cropping, planting all of our early vegetables and sweet corn early to try to maximize the early sales. And right into hay production in the summertime. The ice cream walk-up windows, we started scooping ice cream in the spring of 2020, just before the pandemic. And it actually was huge. It has been busier this year, and as our name gets out there that we're doing ice cream, it is homemade ice cream. It's made by a friend of mine down in Dunstable, Mass. This year, we started an addition on the farm stand, and we are hoping to bring ice cream making in-house. So we've only been in our new farm stand for a year and a half. We've already got a 10 by 50 addition on the back. So. We're trying to do more, trying to offer more, just trying to make it a destination farm.
All right, hi folks, I'm Trevor Hardy from Brookdale Fruit Farm here in Hollis, New Hampshire. I'm the 7th generation of the Hardy and Whittemore families that are here operating Brookdale Fruit Farm. So our farm here in Hollis, we're primarily focused on fruits and vegetables. Long before my time we had animals and a dairy operation, but now we're primarily focusing on fruits and vegetables with hundreds of acres of apples and sweet corn and vegetable production, as well as peaches and other specialty fruits. So right now we grow over 40 different varieties of apples. There's roughly around 260 acres of apples within production. There's also several acres of peaches, plums, and sweet cherries that we have in production as well for tree fruit. So Brookdale's made up of 4 different divisions. We have wholesale, retail, pick your own, which we have on its own, and the farm supplies. As far as grown farm goods, wholesale is our largest market, followed by our retail and then our pick your own. We are known for being the largest diversified wholesale farm in New England, and we service over 38 different grocery stores and over 200 different farms and farm stands throughout the region. Our farm is a member, as well as many other farms in the Jamaican H2A program, as members of the New England Apple Council, who help offer as our agent to fill out all the paperwork and get our labor force here for us. And I've been with them in another organization that they work under, the U.S. Apple Organization. I've been to D.C. Many times. Actually, they're lobbying and talking about the issues we have with our migratory labor force and why they're so important to us in order to get this work done and harvest all our crop. We also have a farm supplies division, which I operate and manage, which is the largest in the Northeast region, selling growing supplies and consumable goods to all the other farms throughout the Northeast. So Hillsborough County within the state has the largest direct-to-consumer sales within the state of New Hampshire. That's over, from the last farm statistics, there's over $9 million annually within Hillsborough County. So one of those advantages is that's the top 40 to 50 counties within the country, and the largest within the New England region as direct marketed goods to consumers. So that's where Hillsborough County has a unique perspective of agriculture, not only in the state of New Hampshire, but in the whole entire Northeast region.
We do have a close-knit community here. We still have a handful of dairy farms in the county, some beef farms. We have an elk farm, some goat farm, a goat dairy, several fruit and vegetables, apple orchards. So we do have a really good community of farmers here that do help each other out when others are in a bind.
Well, I think Hillsborough County is in New Hampshire anyways, is a unique county in that we're the most populated county in the state. But we have very rural areas in the county, and we have, you know, very urban areas in the county, at least for New Hampshire, considered urban. And we happen to be right on the edge, so we're, you know, only 20 miles from Nashua and Manchester, both. We're 60 miles from Boston, 20 miles from Fitchburg, you know, but people come out here on a day trip thinking they're in the North Woods, you know, and so that is kind of a neat thing with the county, is that there's both extremes in the same area, you know.
And when people are looking for the experience, that's a great way to put it. When we run our U-Pick here, it's been over generations. We hear from folks during apple harvest that, oh, I've been coming here since I was, you know, 8 years old, and they're now in their late 20s with children, and we wanted to bring our next generation of our family here, and it's valuing that family and that personal experience with connecting those folks with our farm and with what we have to offer here in Hillsborough County. And it's not just apples and vegetables, it happens all year long. Our other neighbors in the maple industry within the county, they see people that go there all the time. The spring and summer annual and flower sales and that type of stuff, and berry sales that happen in the summer, it's the same kind of thing. People want to have a positive experience, connect with the farmers and the growers within the region, and be able to relate that to the rest of the family.
Right. So that was a wonderful video from Josh. Josh, do you want to say anything more about the video to folks, or?
Yeah, I could say a few words. It's funny, I haven't watched it in a while. It's I've spent so many hours looking at that footage. It was nice to take a break and see it again with sort of a fresh perspective. But I think some of the important things to take away from it is, you know, what the farmers do to try to make the experience enjoyable for consumers. And it's not, like I said, it's not just about the food, although that's obviously the most important part, but they want consumers to connect with them. They want them to see how they produce their food and have that connection, and be able to spend some time too. It's a tourist driver as well.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we're going to kind of take a lot of what we just saw, really on the ground things that are happening in your communities where you all live, and kind of connected to these larger ideas about eating local and what that impact is, and kind of how you can really do it in all the different ways and opportunities there are in New Hampshire to do that. So we're going to move on here.
Yeah, so building off that video, those are just 3 examples of outstanding farms that you can actually go and visit and get some local food. But one of the questions we get is, how do you find it? Folks aren't aware of where the farms are or how to find them. And we have, within the Department of Agriculture, we have a number of I think 8 or 10 different directories that we compile each year for CSAs, which is consumer supported agriculture, farm stand, farmers markets, wholesale, pick your own, livestock, and a number of other directories. So if you visit the Department of Agriculture website, which is agriculture.nh.gov, you can find pretty much anything you're looking for in any of the areas that you're at, whether it's Hillsborough County or anywhere else in the state. And then there's a number of other organizations that also have their own listings. There's the New Hampshire Farm Bureau that promotes their members, NOFA NH, which is the Northeast Organic Farmers Association. They have promotions of their members, and UNH Extension has a statewide map, which is sort of interactive. You can type in, you're looking for apples, and it's connected to GPS, so it'll show you the little dots on the map of where those are. So there's always a way to find it, and that's what I think is key, is getting the information out there to folks for how to find it. And I'll go over what a CSA is. Sort of it's kind of like folks at the beginning of the year will pay a subscription almost to a farm, and what they call a share. And throughout the growing season, you get a share based on your contribution each week or every other week, whatever it is. And I have some friends in Ringe that are always posting on social media what they get in their basket. It's whatever's in season and whatever the farmer has. And so it's kind of like a mystery box each week of what we're going to get. And people take a lot of pride in figuring out what to make out of what they get in their box. And one of the newer things, actually, Colleen and I were both at Sweet Beet Market yesterday in Bradford, New Hampshire. They're a great representation of what a food hub is. And there's a lot of really small farms. When I talked earlier about how we look at the statistics of agriculture in New Hampshire, there's about 4,200 farms that report to USDA that they're farming, and more than half of them operate under 100 acres. And if you dive down deeper into those statistics, the majority of those are, under 25 acres. So you've got a lot of small farms that are operating on 1 acre, 5 acres, highly diversified. And when you can combine 10 or 15 farms in an area to one local shop, you have more that you can provide to the consumers. There's more of a one-stop shop. I've heard in the past, folks, you don't want to go somewhere just for a cucumber. You want to go and be able to get a lot of your shopping done. And so food hubs is a new thing that's coming on. Three Rivers Farmers Alliance down in the southern part of the state is another example of that. That's several different farms that work together to offer a wide variety of things. Trevor mentioned in his portion of the video that they sell to supermarkets. It's actually, you would be surprised, but if you shop at Shaw's or Hannaford's, you're probably buying local sweet corn when it's in season. And Hannaford's does a really good job of promoting that. They'll have displays that tell you exactly which farm that you're buying from. I go to the Hannaford's in Concord just to get some stuff from Brookdale and other local farms. Shaw's, I'm not sure if they advertise it as much, but I know several farmers in the region that sell sweet corn and winter squash and things like that to them. So you actually can get your local food from the grocery store as well, but the more of that dollar goes to the farmer if you actually visit a farm stand or a farmer's market, of which there's probably 50, I think, in the state. So there is really opportunity for everyone to participate in these if you know where to find them. And so, go to our website, call us up, talk to Colleen and the folks at the Food Alliance, and we'll make sure you find where to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And at the end, I have a huge slide of all these different links that are just going to make your eyes cross, but it's a lot of great information that we'll share with the folks at the library to get get out to you, and all the kind of things that Josh just referenced, we'll have a link to. So that will be good to have. All right. So make sure I'm on the right thing. There we go. So we kind of just talked about where you can find local food, all the different places, and you kind of see that listed here again, but I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about, accessing that local food. I think there's a lot of conversation around cost and pricing, and, everyone's obviously out here trying to stretch a dollar. We all know that. And the perception often is that food or local food could be more expensive or is out of reach for a lot of folks who are trying to be mindful of their budget. And I think beyond the understanding that the couple extra dollars that you might pay for a cucumber or tomato is going directly back into the pockets of your neighbors and your farmers and your community. So just knowing that impact is kind of something that we talk about a lot when we're talking about making choices between local and kind of food from far away. But these opportunities here that are on the screen are great things to take advantage of, programs and things that are run by the state, things that are run by charitable organizations in New Hampshire that provide the opportunity for folks to get not only sign up for benefits to get local food and to get food into their households, but also to get double, which is like the best. You can get double the amount of fresh fruits and vegetables for folks who participate in the SNAP, EBT, and WIC programs. They can use the Granite State Market Match and the Double Up Food Bucks program to get double the amount of fresh fruits and vegetables. So just free money to buy all that great local food. Another great opportunity too, and Josh talked about the CSA model, the community supported agriculture model. Organizations like NOFA New Hampshire, the Northeast Organic Farming Association of New Hampshire, and Cheshire County Conservation District, and a few other organizations across the state do these kind of fundraising opportunities where they raise money within their organization to offset the cost of a share for folks who are at a limited income capacity. So all of these kind of different kinds of programs are out here to make it more accessible for everyone, from little kids to our older generation folks to get access to local foods, and kind of make it a more even playing field for everybody. So again, I'll be sharing some of those links as well if folks are interested in taking advantage of stuff like that. Our next thing, you can see a theme in my slides. I'm liking these like lines and connections. Okay, so we talked about finding local food, where we kind of figure out where we can go and who we can talk to find out where I can, get local food. We talked about kind of access to local food and making that kind of an equitable thing for everyone. And now we're going to kind of talk about what, when you choose local, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean for the these various ideas and things that, we might hear about or think about when we're buying local food or thinking about choosing local food, but kind of really teasing out what it means and like how you can make an impact. So the biggest thing when you choose to eat local is eating local and eating seasonally. And I think that is a huge, it's a huge kind of learning curve. We all kind of had this learning curve of growing up and being like, we can have strawberries all year round. Why not? They're at the grocery store. But when you really realize it, especially living in the Northeast, strawberries are in June. That's just how it's got to go, so being mindful of that. And it gives you the opportunity to try so many different fruits and vegetables that you may not have had the opportunity to or even thought about trying because, you're so used to having the same things available all year round at the grocery store. Thinking about seasonal food, and then my next favorite thing, canning and freezing these in-season fruits and vegetables is a great way to like extend that season. I hear it all the time, and I'm sure Josh is going to shake his head. There's nothing better than pulling out a bag of blueberries or peaches that you froze and just enjoying that in January and knowing that they didn't get trucked from California or wherever. Nothing against California, but it's nice to know that they're nice and local. They were, you preserve that freshness right when they came off the vine or off the tree, and that's a really great way to, again, like, extend that season and eat seasonally, eat locally. Another thing, and I think this kind of plays into what Josh was saying as well about local food at the grocery store, there's a lot of opportunity to eat locally and regionally, which is another thing that we like to think about here in New Hampshire and New England. Is we have a plethora of amazing farms, not only in our state, but in our region, in Maine and Vermont and Massachusetts, and all of that regionality together is pretty delicious, and a lot of it can be found at your grocery store. So flip those things over, flip over your butter, flip over your milk, or check out the signs at the grocery store, because a lot of times you won't even realize that there are pretty local things just right there on the shelves in Hannaford's or Shaw's or wherever you do your shopping. Then we have reducing and reusing food waste. So that's another kind of benefit of eating locally as well. And it kind of connects to that, being mindful of when things are in season, canning and freezing, but also kind of thinking about things that you may normally throw away that would be amazing in different types of dishes, or kind of reusing them in ways that you wouldn't imagine. Pesto is, I think, a great example of that. I think I've made a pesto with about every single green thing that I can find, and enough cheese and enough nuts that go in there, and it tastes good. Just throw it on some pasta, but just kind of trying to waste less and use parts of the fruits and vegetables that maybe are not traditionally used is a great way to reduce your food waste, and then obviously reusing things. Great way to eat locally and get a more bang for your buck. You buy those beets, you want to use those beet tops. It's kind of a two-in-one vegetable. Some of the other things too are kind of meal planning and shopping, like making a shopping list, planning out your meals, like being thoughtful about how much food you might need for the week, so things don't get stuck in the back of the fridge. We all know that sad spinach in the back of the fridge. It happens all the time. It's okay. No judgment, and we all do it. But the meal planning and creating a list before you go to the farmer's market or before you go to the farm stand really will help with that kind of intentionality, and again, save you that money. You don't want to just throw things away and not use what you paid for. And some of that meal planning and that shopping and this kind of cooking, making pestos, I know those are skills that sometimes aren't always in practice for us. And, when we have 5 minutes to get dinner on the table, it's not our number one thought, but, building some home cooking skills. We have a great amount of programs in the state, Cooking Matters, and, various cooking classes that are really fun, especially for kiddos. I know kids love getting involved in the kitchen. So those are a great opportunity to kind of sharpen those skills. The last thing we kind of want to talk about is a little bit different from these two other things. Those are kind of very, eater focused, benefits of eating locally, but kind of to the point of Trevor and Josh's video, and what Josh kind of followed up with is like knowing your farmer, knowing who produced your food, and not only knowing them as a person, but just knowing like what kind of practices they use, and being mindful and having agency in that choice is a really good thing, and it contributes to what makes our local food system resilient. We kind of have this organic versus conventional versus industrial kind of complex, and I think I've had folks ask me, and I'm sure Josh has too, and I'll definitely let him speak to it a little bit, but what's better or what's worse, and what these things are. And we'll talk about it in a little bit when we get to our climate friendly eating. But New Hampshire, as Josh said, has small farms, and most small farms are not these big scary farms that we see on TV or that are portrayed in the media. A lot of them are extremely responsible and thoughtful about how they produce their food. organic versus conventional has some very unique and very complex, I would say, but not complex to not too complex to understand, but just like these nuanced differences that although are can be a little bit maybe not for everyone to think about all the time, but it's good to know the difference. And some of the organic practices lean a little bit better in terms of climate and environmentally friendly, but your conventional farmer is by no means out here to destroy the earth. There is a significant difference between our conventional farmers in New Hampshire and the industrial ag industry. So we'll get a little bit more into that in a little bit. But so, Josh, anything you want to add to the ramblings I just put on there?
Oh, no, I think you did great. I would just add that, I get asked all the time from friends who don't have an ag connection, should they eat organic or conventional? And I say both. I say shop local. When you get out to visit a farmer who's growing conventionally, what you realize is that they're not doing anything that they wouldn't feed their own families with. And whether it's livestock or fruits and veggies, it doesn't benefit any farmer to do things that hurt the environment or hurt their animals, because they either won't produce or they won't have a good product. So I really would challenge folks to get out there and just meet their farmers, regardless of their practice, and would reiterate just sort of that point of, in New Hampshire, we don't have any mega farms that are 200,000 acres growing the same thing. It just doesn't exist here. So some of those fears that you may see from the media, just realize that you can go and visit a farm in New Hampshire and learn for yourself and see firsthand what folks are doing to produce the food that you eat and the food that they eat.
Yes, I think that's a great point. They are feeding their families, and that's, why would they want to feed their families something that would hurt them? So that's a good way to decipher it. All right, on to the next. Oh, this is a great one. Josh, you take it away.
Yeah. So I learned about this a couple of years ago. The New Hampshire Farm Bureau Young Farmers they picked up what's called the 10-gallon challenge, and it's a social media challenge where there was a news broadcaster in Ohio, I believe, who started it, and he went and bought 10 gallons of milk and donated it to his local food pantry, and went online and said, who's next, and did a hashtag 10-gallon challenge. And they caught wind of it and decided to do it in each county of New Hampshire. And I was deciding I was going to take part and take up the challenge. And when I did, I was looking at this bottle of Hood milk, and I saw that code, underneath the date, and I was wondering what that was. So I looked it up. And when you're buying milk, oh, I'm sorry, my dog wants to play. You're buying milk from, that's from Hood or from another local producer. If you see that code 33, that means that it was made in Concord, and it's New Hampshire milk. All the New Hampshire dairy farmers that are part of the co-ops that sell bulk milk, it goes to be processed there and bottled there. So again, it's another example of when you're at the grocery store, you can actually get stuff that was made in your backyard. So be conscious of what you're doing when you're shopping. Take a look at that milk jug, and if you see code 33, that was that milk was produced in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
I would also add really quick, butter too. Cabot butter, I believe it's Cabot. I hope that's New England regional. It's New Hampshire, Vermont, and Massachusetts. So when you're buying butter, instead of maybe buying that one from Minnesota, look for Cabot, and you're supporting your local farmers that way too.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Cabot's a great kind of. They make so many great products, and you kind of can feel good about that. Not that this is the Cabot show, but I like cheese, I like yogurt. But yeah, the milk thing is great, and it's just, again, pay attention to those labels. Flip flip over those products and just check out where things are made. You'll be really surprised, honestly. All right, next thing. So this is kind of related to that flip over the label thing, and just thinking about where our food comes from, and kind of what is its journey to get here. And this is a great kind of visual example of that. This is a great little diagram that actually it's from a farmer's market in New Jersey I had connected with, and I was like, this is so awesome. Thank you for making this, because it so clearly lays out this difference between, you have your garden at the top and the transport from your garden to your home. There's, there's just footsteps, so, and then you get all the way down to something like a meal delivery service where it starts at a farm, it's transported, it's packed and distributed, it's in its packaging, it's now getting delivered to your home, and then it's on your plate. And so that journey and all of the different, fuels and plastics and boxes and people and labor that takes to get something that you could have gotten down the street from your house, or from your farmer's market, and been on your plate in a matter of minutes, had this really long journey. And I am no nutritionist, but I do know that as the longer something sits, and it's longer tomato sits on a truck, the less tasty it is, and the nutrients, they're just not as vibrant, and there's not as much of an opportunity for us to absorb all the great things that are put into those fruits and veggies. So when you're thinking about where you want to get your food, or thinking about where things have come from, and looking at labels, kind of remember this diagram, and thinking about just the supply chain. Never mind the fact that we saw during the pandemic, and I know I'm tired of talking about it, but it's very, very true that a lot of these things broke down. A lot of these transports that you see here, just cover those up, because those got kind of broken down, and whether it was from a labor standpoint or just plain old people couldn't be at work because of health and safety issues, that's a break in that system. That's why those shelves were empty, is because those middle pieces were not there to get the food to your plate. So,
yeah, Colleen, can I make a comment on that?
Sure.
There was hours of footage from each of those farmers that didn't make the cut, but Sean Trombley at Trombley Gardens told a pretty interesting story about what happened during the pandemic. His farm stand is really like a little grocery store. They have a lot of things that if they don't grow them themselves, they get from the Boston market. They have some local companies that make prepared meals, different things like that, and they have a bakery inside. And he said that when that happened, folks, the consumers sort of forced him to change his model, and he was doing pick up off the porch stuff, and they were asking for more foods. And so now if you walk into his farm stand, he's got limes and lemons and bananas and things that so yes, they're not necessarily local, but you were getting them from your local farmer, and they became the place that people wanted to go rather than the grocery store. So I think that there's an opportunity. It's sort of eating intentionally. We all have to eat, but if you put a little intention into the way you look at eating, you can find those locally sourced options.
Absolutely. I love that. Eating intentionally is pretty much the takeaway from this whole thing. Yeah, that's a great local example of kind of shortening our food chain. All right, we're going to move on to the next slide. So we've been a few places. We're finding local food, we're getting access, we are thinking about what that impact is on, and what those benefits are of eating local. So let's think a little bit about that from a climate change and an environment perspective. Inherently, just as we just talked about, eating locally is climate friendly. It's plain and simply from the standpoint that food does not have to be traveled and transported on airplanes and trucks and all these things to get to where we are. And that, for one, is just a climate friendly practice in and of itself. But there are many other things that we have already talked about that are not only benefits to just eating locally, but benefits to our climate and eating locally. So it's, if not local, regional, it's that kind of keeping that food supply chain short, keeping it locally, keeping our dollars here with our neighbors and our communities. Again, eating seasonally, if you're eating strawberries in January, I'll use that example again, they're coming from California. And so it's that same kind of impact of travel and transport that is going to kind of impact that food choice. Reducing and reusing food waste, I think, is not something that we all think about as home consumers and eaters. But a lot of that food that, if it gets thrown away, gets into a landfill and is creating problems for our environment, and just not being a beneficial opportunity to reduce our climate footprint. So thinking about trying to just reduce our waste altogether, but reusing it, as we talked about before, in just different ways in the kitchen, but also composting and doing that at home, which is a whole other thing that I'm not qualified to talk about, but we can put a bookmark in that for another day. But those are the things we kind of like to think about when we're reducing and reusing food waste. And kind of, again, and we don't have to go back here, but knowing your farmers' practices and knowing your farmer, and knowing that the local choices that you're making here in New Hampshire are for folks who are growing food the right way, and being really thoughtful and mindful about how their farming is affecting the environment. Josh, do you want to talk about anything on here, or do you feel good about that?
No, I feel good about that.
All right, we're moving right through. I want to get to some questions. So I think this next slide is a doozy. And I didn't know if I wanted to get really into it. And Josh and I were talking about this earlier, but there is as well a social justice component to eating locally. And it really hones in on this small farm versus industrial farm. And as Josh had pointed out, and we've talked about a little bit, there is no industrial farming in New Hampshire. It's just not a thing. So we are all very well and good to be in that left side of the screen under that small farming column, where all of these kind of social justice ideas and understandings are a part of what our small farms do. They're economically democratic. They're transparent about their practices, both from a labor and from just a farming standpoint. They, as Trevor talked about in his interview, there's fair labor practices. He's, down in DC lobbying for organizations that are treating folks fairly and giving people opportunities. And there's, regenerative farming practices, and just being thoughtful again about what's going in the ground, what's going on the food, how animals are being treated. And there's, that industrial farming side is kind of that polar opposite, but that's a huge topic. And I think it's something that I hope if folks are interested, we could come back and talk a little bit more about and kind of get into the weeds with it. But that's kind of your social justice one.
Yeah. And I would just add, because it is a huge topic, and it's complex, and but I like to talk about it. It's also an economic problem in terms of economies of scale and consolidation, whether it's farming or any other industry. When you get so much consolidation and production in one area, then it's harder to do some of those things on those left-hand columns. And we need food. We need to have. I thought I read somewhere that I don't want to say the statistic because I'll mess it up, but it was talking about how much chicken we eat in the United States. And so, yes, we do need a lot of processing capacity, but the more local meats and vegetables and fruits that you buy, economically, that incentivizes more people to produce more of that. And your dollar is really, how you can sway how that happens. And again, I would just reiterate, when folks ask me about something they see on TV from a farm in a different part of the country that's on a whole different scale, I remind them that doesn't exist here in New Hampshire. Our largest farms would be considered tiny compared to some other places. And that gives them the opportunity to be more, I'll use it again, intentional in the way that they do things. And just, again, go talk to your farmer. They would love to tell you about what they do. and show you how they do it and why they use the things they do and how that works for them.
Absolutely. All right. Okay, we're getting towards the end. This is New Hampshire Eats Local Month is August, and this is kind of the prime time, I like to think, for local food in the state. And there's a lot of great things that are in season, tomatoes and corn and some of the stuff we talked about. And we at the Food Alliance, as well as the New Hampshire Department of Agriculture, Markets and Food, as well as some other organizations across the state that are more regional, Monadnock Food Co-op, Seacoast Eat Local. We all kind of come together to celebrate our local food during August through New Hampshire Eats Local Month, which is very simply just a month-long celebration of local food. We at the Food Alliance and all of our partner organizations are posting on social media, and we're sharing our different lists and our different food guides and all these things, just all the resources and all of the fun ways that folks get involved in the local food system during the month. And it's really just kind of a way to showcase the amazing work of our farmers, the amazing work of our food producers in the state. And it happens every year, happens every August. This year, I know it's almost over, but there's still some time. We did a Live Free and Eat Local challenge. The challenge was to eat at or from 5 or more farmer food businesses that are in New Hampshire. So if you go to the Concord Farmers Market on Saturday, you could probably knock out a whole challenge in one go, because there's so many wonderful vendors there that are all from New Hampshire and are showing their selling their delicious local foods. But really easy to get involved. We got some history on the right side there with how the Eat Local Month got started. Very much from New Hampshire Department of Agriculture, bringing it to a statewide thing, and just kind of everybody had a helping hand in getting this kind of month-long marketing and promotional campaign together. But if again, I'll have a slide with all the links and information, then you're more than welcome to check out the website and get involved in any way you can. Any thoughts on Eat Local Month, Josh?
I love it. I love it. I think it's awesome. And we always kind of say in the ag service provider world, it's not just August, but we use August because there's so much food that's in season in New Hampshire during that month. Obviously we encourage everybody to eat local all year round, and you can. But August is just such a great representation of the diversity of food products that New Hampshire provides.
Absolutely. That's right. We eat local in August, but we also eat local all year round. All right. So I know Brittany and Tess, they said that we're going to do some questions. I don't know. I can't see the chat, so I don't know if there is any. But I know we only have about 5 minutes, but that's our show. So I'd love to talk local food with everybody if there's anything anybody wants to ask.
Thank you, Colleen and Josh. That was great. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Just going off the last thing that you said, Josh, and Colleen, I think you said as well, we can eat local all year round. So where and what can we eat local come, say, December, January, February?
Yeah, well, I'll field that one. So what, there are a lot of products that store very well. And you'll see, a lot of sort of fruit and veggie farm stands will shut down after Thanksgiving for the winter, or orchards, that sort of thing. But there's also a lot of folks that have potatoes, squash, carrots, things like that they're still for sale all winter long, meat, eggs, dairy. And there are a number of winter farmers markets across the state that offer food, baked goods, things. New Hampshire isn't thought of like this, but there are actually a number of farms that are starting to revive grains. There's a farm. I mean, if you were standing in the State House dome, you could look down on a field of wheat being grown in New Hampshire, and they sell that product at the Concord Farmers Market. So, you could take some of that and make some baked goods. Yes, you're not going to find your blueberries or your strawberries, but with, if you're making a chicken soup in the middle of the winter, you could find all the ingredients you need from a winter farmer's market, from all that stuff that's stored well, the local meat. And then you could finish it off with some ice cream or some pudding that's made right here in New Hampshire.
That's great. Thank you. Elizabeth has a couple of great questions. Has the spotted lanternfly been seen in New Hampshire, and how are our farmers tackling it?
So I think that it's been, luckily for us in New Hampshire, most of the time when it's been spotted, it's been during the inspection of when rootstock or trees come into New Hampshire. And that's part of what the Division of Plant Industry does, is they have inspectors that go out there and check on those things. And so they can quarantine those products before they get to the marketplace. I'm not aware of, Piera Seigert is the director of that division. She would have a much better answer. But from what I understand, we haven't seen too much of it. And really what it affects most is grapes and hops. It can affect some apples and things like that, but not as much. And so as New Hampshire increases, that's another one you can get all year round, beer and wine. Those we have some breweries and some wineries that are growing grapes and growing hops here, and they use barley that's grown in New Hampshire at Henniker Brewing Company. If you go there and you buy the beer Morrill, that is got barley and wheat from that farm I was talking about in Concord. So you got to look out for that. And as we increasingly have the ability to grow grapes, and there's the demand for that, I think the spotted lanternfly will be a much bigger problem. But right now, luckily, we haven't seen it as too much of a problem. But if you see them, you can alert us by going to the www.nhbugs.org. You can send in a picture, and the folks over at Plant Industry will identify what that is, whether it is a spotted lanternfly or not. And I've seen some promotions that say, if you see it, squash it. And so it's not the most fun tagline, but they're really a nuisance. And so if you do see something that you think is a spotted lanternfly, take a picture and then step on it.
Great, good advice. And is there a website where we can find the local codes for products like the 33 for milk that you mentioned?
Yes, there is. And I'm sorry, I don't recall it. It might be, that would be a good question for the Granite State Dairy Promotion folks. But that is how I found it when I was doing the donations. And it's just been so long ago that I forget. But you could type in the code or take a picture of the code that you have on your milk bottle, and then it would tell you which plant that was made from. It might even be a Hood website or something like that. But I bet you if you did enough Googling, you could find that out. And that's something that we can find out for you and try to get back to you.
Great. And thank you, Colleen. I see you put the website in there. So we can share that when we post this video.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Any other questions? Right. This has been really great. Thank you so much, Josh and Colleen. I feel like I've learned a lot. I've learned some new things and feel inspired to visit some new farms around New Hampshire.
That's awesome. Thank you for having us. And yeah.
Yep. Thanks. Eat local.
Yes. Absolutely.
Thank you both.